Picture this. You work in a museum as a day guard. You and your buddy clock in for your shift. Only you can't find the night guards where they are supposed to be. This is unusual. Eventually, though, you find them locked up in a basement. They are tied up and have been there for several hours. They tell you this crazy story that 2 officers tied them up there. Not only that, you also find out that the museum seems a little emptier. Several pieces are missing and nowhere to be found. You might even say,
What happened in here?
We was robbed!
exactly. On March 18, 1990, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum would gain worldwide attention when 2 men disguised as cops would enter the museum and steal many pieces of worth millions of dollars in just over an hour. Over 30 years later, the thieves and the art have never been found. People have asked, how did they do it? Why and how? There are theories on who might have pulled this off. The museum still hopes for answers and are offering over $10 million if anyone knows where it might be. This is the true story of the greatest art theft in the world. This is the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum theft. But before I begin, be sure to hit that subscribe button and make sure that notifications are on as well. The museum was founded by Isabella Stewart Gardner in 1903. Gardner was born into a rich family and was so her entire life. She was intelligent, receiving an education when she was young. She married a man named Jack, and their only child died as a baby, though she would later adopt her brother-in-law's kid when he died. She loved to travel and the arts. She started collecting in the 1890s, and she and her husband fought about opening a museum. Jack would die in 1898, and Julia would begin working on the building. It would open 5 years later with the paintings and other works of art. She lived a socialite lifestyle. She was known for her fashion, once wearing a headband that said, "Oh, you Red Sox." She died on July 17, 1924. After her death, the museum would continue to operate and get new pieces. While it was a famous museum, it wasn't a household name for anyone outside Boston or art lovers. This, however, would change in 1990. March 18, 1990. Began like any normal night. The museum just closed hours before, and security guards Rick Abath and Randy Hesstand were on duty. Abath had been a guard for a couple years now, and had been used to the job, though he was a bit of a slacker. Hesstand was newer. In fact, this was his first full night shift. They probably thought this would be like any other night. They were wrong. Both guards had 2 roles. One would patrol the grounds, while the other watched the security cameras. At the start of the shift, the fire alarms went off as Abath was on patrol. He thought it was a glitch and turned them off. Abath would later check a side door around 12:30 a.m. He never told his partner about this or wrote it down. Not to mention, it was against the rules to open it without a real reason. He would later claim he was testing it to see if it worked. The 2 guards switched duties. Almost an hour later, the men heard the buzzer to the door go off. 2 men dressed as police officers were there. They claimed they were responding to a disturbance. Even though they didn't hear anything or see anything, Abath would let them in. This was a mistake. Abath should have called the Boston police to confirm the disturbance and ID the men. But he didn't. The guards claimed he was under arrest. Abath was confused, but listened. He left his station without pressing the panic button to alert the police. He was handcuffed, and Hesland, who was checking the museum, was called up. When he arrived, they handcuffed him too. The men took them to the basement and duct taped them to pipes and benches. The men were now free to act. Their first move was in the Dutch room, in the second floor. They stole Rambinets, the Storm of the Sea of Galali, and a Lady of Gentlemen in Black. They broke them out of their frames and cut them out. They also entered the Blue Room and their short gallery, stealing more, including a bronze eagle on a Napoleonic flagpole. Their moves were captured on tape and motion sensors in most rooms, though not in the Blue Room. Before making their getaway, they took the tapes. However, a hard drive was left behind. In just over 80 minutes, the thief stole 13 works of art worth over $13 million. The most notable was The Concert, a 1664 painting by Johannes Vermeer. Here is a complete list of all the stolen artwork. The day guards arrived sometime later to find the night guards tied up and 13 pieces gone. The employees, owners, and just about anyone else was stunned. There was one question. Where were they? When the owners found out, they wanted to know one thing. How the hell did this happen? 13 pieces gone in just 81 minutes. Some people were mad at the guards for their carelessness, though some others couldn't blame them, thinking they were only human. The police, the real police, began to see if they could track the thieves, though this wouldn't be easy. It was clear that the robbers weren't Catwoman, Sly Cooper, or even Swiper the Fox. They were quite messy. They broke the glass, risking the chance of damaging the paintings, though they already did. The paintings were cut out rather clumsily, leaving the corners of the paintings out. They probably wrapped them up, causing even more damage. Some of the pieces stolen weren't even that valuable. A Chinese beaker, for example, was rather cheap compared to some others that were not stolen. They passed works, such as Michelangelo and Raphael. They didn't even enter the third floor, where there were some even more expensive paintings. Several fingerprints were looked at. The FBI could not find any link to their database, though. It couldn't be determined if the fingerprints belonged to the thieves or normal employees. Some of the evidence has also been since lost. The guards and witnesses have a description. The witnesses were people who were at a party for St. Patrick's Day. One man was around 5'9", medium build, and in his late 30s. The other was around 6 foot, heavier build, and also in his late 30s. Mario and Luigi had been ruled out as suspects. The witnesses saw them around 12:30 a.m. Museum director Anne Harley would get a letter in 1994. The letter claimed the men would give the paintings back. They were in a climate-controlled place and in another country. They stole it to reduce a prison sentence, but lost the chance, so they didn't need them anymore. They would give it back if they were given their demands. They wanted no prison time and $2.6 million for the art. They would negotiate on the Boston Globe with a coded message. The Globe would print it out and the men would send another letter. The men were worried that investigators would find them out. They needed more time. But they never replied back. Still, it's still not known whom this was done by and for what reasons, though it would be looked into. The biggest theory is that the Boston mob was involved. One mob boss was Whitney Bulger. He was the leader of the Winter Hill Gang and had ties to the police. He denied involvement though and died in 2018. It's highly believed the mob came from the Mid-Atlantic or North Atlantic area. In 2013, the FBI said that they are confident they know who the thieves are and possibly members of the Merlino gang led by Carmelo Merlino. Bobby Donatai and David Hockton were also suspected. An art thief named Miles J. Connor Jr. claimed Hoffman visited him in jail and admitted they planned to sell the paintings and use the money to bust him out. This does go along with the letter a few years later. Connor said that they would give the art and thieves' whereabouts in exchange for his freedom and prize money, but due to lack of evidence, this was denied. Some evidence said it was Merlino gang members Robert Gontinetti and Robert Gentile. Gontinetti died from cancer in 2004, but his wife said years later that he had the paintings and then gave them to Gentile before he died. Gentile denied this. A secret room was found in Gintile's house, complete with a paper on the robbery and a paper on what the paintings might sell for. But there wasn't enough evidence to charge him, or that he ever had the paintings at all. Gentile said the list belonged to another criminal. He also said that the ditch was for motors. A man named David Turner, who worked for Merlino, is a suspect too. He claimed he was innocent due to being in Florida when it happened to get some cocaine, though some investigators, this might be a fake alibi. Some family members claimed he might have a painting in his home, but nothing was ever found. He was arrested in 1999 for trying to rob the Lumos Fargo vault. The FBI said if he said where the paintings were, they would let him go, but he said he didn't know. Merlino himself died in 2005. Another small theory is that a criminal named Brian McDevitt did it. In 1981, he dressed as a FedEx worker and tried to steal from the Hyde collection. One of the paintings he tried to take was a Rembrandt. He denied it though, and died in 2004. His fingerprints were also negative. Lastly, there is the inside job theory. This theory states that the robbery was done by either current or former employees at the time. Them being employees would explain how they knew the museum so well, and worked swiftly. The two guards, mostly Abath, were questioned. What Abath did was questionable. He left the door open, let the men in without ID or confirmation from the department, and how no movement was shown in the blue room despite a painting being stolen. He also seemed to hate the job, complaining about the pay and the lack of security. He was a bit of a slacker, while on the clock, not taking it seriously. This made him suspicious. However, a lie detector test came out empty. He would always claim his innocence. He would admit he made mistakes that night though, even though the FBI said that the guards were too incompetent and foolish to do it. Their words, not mine. Abath died in 2024 at the age of 57. "35 years after the theft, and it remains unsolved. 35 years without eyes lying on famous works, not counting the thieves or possible buyers. There are theories, but none have been proven, though the Mafia theory does have the most evidence. Most agree it was most likely the Bosnian Mafia, though Abath, the Kosakian mob, and other conmen and unprofessional thieves are also listed. Many of the suspects have since passed away. If they did have the paintings, only close family and friends know their whereabouts. Wherever they might be, hopefully they are in good condition. Some reports have said that the FBI thinks they traveled through states like Pennsylvania and Connecticut. Others have said that the paintings were sold in France. Whatever the case, it remains unsolved. The frames of the paintings are still hanging up today, empty. Isabella wanted them to never be removed, so they respected her wishes as much as they could. As people pass by, it's a reminder of what happened 35 years ago. The museum still hopes one day the pieces will be returned to their true home.